Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to the regular meeting of the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners. And we're going to open our meeting today. Actually, we have a pastor here, Amy Byington, from the Church of Jesus Christ, the Latter-day Saints. Amy, I'd like to invite you up. And I'm going to ask everyone to stand if you're able. And when the prayer is over, we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance, and it'll be led by Commissioner Wilson. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for coming today. We appreciate it. Thank you. Citizens who are interested in participating in the public session portion of the meeting, you may do so by calling, if you'd like to, 336-422-1200, and you'll be placed on hold until the public session begins. And any member of the audience who wishes to speak today in the public session portion of the meeting, you can fill out a speaker card and return it to our clerk, Ashley Matthews, at the end. You could even do that now. We do have several public hearings today, and there will be opportunities actually to speak within those, and you will have that opportunity then if you'd like to speak for or against an issue in a public hearing. The first item is a public hearing on the text amendment modifying Chapter 4 of the Unified Development Ordinance, UDO, to amend provision for single-family uses within residential multifamily zoning districts. Unified Development Ordinance, CC 28.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the County Commission. This is a request of Planning and Development Services staff to amend Chapter 4 of the UDO relating to provisions for single-family uses within residential multifamily districts. A little bit of background, this work item arose from previous rezoning requests, several previous rezoning requests in which it was revealed that single-family uses were subject to varying and at times more stringent standards than more intense residential multifamily uses. This amendment intends to improve logic and consistency for single-family uses, especially as maximum allowable density increases. A footnote will be added to each of the RM district dimensional requirement table that will instruct users of the UDO to reference the RM5 table for specific requirements for single-family uses within RM districts. The language of that footnote is included in yellow on this image. Each RM district table has a footnote that references the user to the RM5 table for the minimum lot size and dimension for one single-family lot. Changes were also made to Table 4.5.18, minimum lot sizes in the RM districts, to make it clear that the minimum lot size for single-family uses in all RM districts is 5,000 square feet. The single unit minimum lot size will now be the same for every RM district. This is just an example of the change to that Table 4.5.18. This amendment will rectify discrepancies and improve logic and clarity throughout multiple UDO sections. The proposed changes remove barriers which will improve infill development opportunities by removing the need to rezone from RM to RS or to receive a variance approval from the Zoning Board of Adjustment. This text amendment does not constitute a downzoning per the regulations of Senate Bill 382 that was approved in the last session. This was heard by the Planning Board at their October 2024 public hearing. There were no speakers in opposition, and following that, they did recommend approval to both you and to the City Council. This has already been heard by the City Council and was adopted by them in January. With that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Chris? Thank you. This is a public hearing, and speakers will have up to 15 minutes total to speak in favor of this request, up to 15 minutes total to speak in opposition. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of the petition? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the petition? declare the public hearing closed. Do we have a motion?
Move approval.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Bessie, second by Commissioner Wilson. Any discussion? All in favor? Please raise your hand. Oh, say aye. Sorry, we switched there. Say aye. Aye. Any nays? Motion carries unanimously. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing on a text amendment modifying chapters 3, 4, 10, and 11 of the Unified Development Ordinance to align language regarding the Historic Resources Commission with North Carolina General Statutes, and this is UDO CC 29. Chris, go ahead.
Good afternoon again. You have already read the introductory sentence there, so I will not belabor that point. This is a little bit of background. This is following the comprehensive overhaul of the General Statutes, Chapter 160D in 2020. The state legislature did make some additional changes to Article 9, Regulation of Particular Uses and Areas in 2022. Historic Resources staff began a comprehensive review of the sections of the UDO pertaining to the HRC in early 2023 to determine where the UDO did not align with the language of Article 9. After reviewing the UDO, staff identified 5 sections that require modification. Those sections are referenced there. Language was updated to mirror the general statute provisions, correct typographical errors and outdated titles, and to regularize and define certain terms. This text amendment does not change the current operations of the HRC. Rather, it conforms the UDO with standard practices and the HRC's rules of procedure. And again, it also does make it consistent with the general statutes. Again, something that you'll probably see more on all of these moving forward is this text amendment does not constitute a downzoning per the regulations of Senate Bill 382 adopted by the General Assembly in the last session. Similar to the last text amendment, this was heard in November by the Planning Board. There were no speakers in opposition, and following the public hearing, the Planning Board did vote unanimously to recommend approval of this request to both the county commissioners and to the city. And again, the city did adopt this in January of this year. And with that, I'm glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Chris? We've had 2 briefings. Any questions? Thank you. This is a public hearing. Speakers will have up to 15 minutes total to speak in favor of this request, up to 15 minutes total to speak in opposition. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the petition? I declare the public hearing closed. Do we have a motion?
Move approval.
Motion approved by Commissioner Bessie. Second by Commissioner Wilson. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. I will not do that again. I apologize. Sometimes you get in habits of things, and I'm having trouble breaking that one. Next item on the agenda is public hearings upon 4 bond orders, and each bond order requires a separate public hearing. Lee Puckett, our Assistant Chief Financial Officer, CFO, will review the items, and thank you for being here. Lee.
Thank you, Commissioner. This bond order, the Board of County Commissioners authorizes the issuance of $27,335,000 of general obligation 2/3 bonds to provide for the constructing, renovating, improving, acquiring, and equipping certain school facilities located in the county. $8.5 million will be for the biennial capital maintenance projects, and the remaining balance of $18.8 million will go towards the Ashley Elementary project. The bond order also declares the security backing these bonds is a taxing authority of you as a board, and the bond order will take effect if approved 30 days after its publication following adoption. Thank you.
All righty. Any questions for Lee about that? The first public hearing is a bond order authorizing issuance of not to exceed $27,335,000 in general obligation school bonds of the County of Forsyth. Again, speakers will have up to 15 minutes total to speak in favor of this request and up to 15 minutes total to speak in opposition. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of the request? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Declare the public hearing closed. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion approved by Commissioner McDaniel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bessie. Any discussion?
I do have, I guess, a question in regards to the premium funds that we discussed at the budget workshop, I think it was $2.1 million that could also be available, if so chosen by the county commissioners. I think the county manager said that we would have to take some kind of action on that, and I just wanted to update the public in regards to that conversation from our budget workshop.
Go ahead.
Yes, so there's $2.1 million in additional proceeds. It's called premium, where investors buy our bonds and are willing to pay a premium for those. And so you as a board can decide what purpose you'd like to choose to apply those proceeds. So that would be up to the board to choose.
But the current order that we're dealing with now basically is to not include the premium.
No, that is not correct. So it's still up to the board. We have until May 5th to decide whether to issue bonds in
Includes the
order to get the
premium,
premium.
but the 2.1 is not designated yet.
That's correct.
That is correct.
That's correct.
All right, that's good.
And we do plan on bringing that back to you all before that date for
Okay.
a decision.
Thank you.
All right. The second public hearing against a bond issue.
Oh, we
yes.
didn't take a,
Oh,
we didn't take a.
I'm sorry, we do. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. The second public hearing is a bond order authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $2,300,000 of general obligation community college bonds, County of Forsyth. Speakers will have up to 15 minutes total to speak in favor of this request and 15 minutes total to speak in opposition. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of the request? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion approved by Commissioner McDaniel, second. Second by Commissioner Wilson. Any discussion? We did not have Lee go over that language. Is there anything you need to say? But we've been over it twice, but thank you. No discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. Any need to have Lee review the third bond order, or we can continue?
It is the same language to each one, just a different amount and purpose. So this third bond order is for $2 million for Parks and Recreation. For those that are residing within the county, the taxing authority is the security on these bonds, and it will take effect, if approved, 30 days after its publication.
Good. Any questions for Lee about bond order number 3 here? All righty. This again is the third public hearings for $2 million of general obligation Parks and Recreation bonds, the County of Forsyth. Speakers will have up to 15 minutes total to speak in favor of this request, up to 15 minutes total to speak in opposition. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this request, this bond? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this bond? Do we have a motion? Motion approved by Commissioner Bessie. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And we can have Lee review the fourth public hearings, another bond order of $2 million.
So this is the final bond order authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $2 million in general obligation public facility bonds. These bonds authorize that amount for constructing, renovating, improving, acquiring, and equipping certain public facilities located in the county. Bond order declares the security backing these bonds as the taxing authority of you as a board, and the bond order will take effect if approved 30 days after its publication.
Thank you very much. Fourth public hearings, a bond order authorizing issuance of not to exceed $2 million general obligation public facilities bonds, the County of Forsyth. Speakers will have up to 15 minutes total to speak in favor of this request, up to 15 minutes total to speak in opposition. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this bond? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this bond? Declare the public hearing closed. Do we have a motion? Motion approved by Commissioner Bessie. Second by Commissioner Wilson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Fourth item on the agenda is a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the County of Forsyth providing for the issuance of not to exceed $33,635,000 general obligation bond series 2025 of the County of Forsyth. That is basically recapping the four together into a single motion. Anything you need to add to that, Lee?
No, this is the last action you'll need to take. Essentially, our sale resolution that allows us to authorize the
Authorize the
LGCs to sell the bonds.
Good. Any discussion? Got a question for Lee? So do we have a motion to approve the resolution for the $33,635,000 issuance of general obligation bonds?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Bessie. Is there a second?
Second.
We have seconds by Commissioner McDaniel and Commissioner Woodbury. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is a resolution regarding April 2025 as Child Abuse Awareness Month in Forsyth County. And Krista Smith, our Social Services Director, is here to receive the resolution. And we'll have an opportunity for all those here to come forward. In fact, you could probably do it right now while we have Commissioner Bessie is going to get ready to read. Are you going to do it from here?
I'll read it from here so I'll be sure to be audible. And then I'll come down and congratulate everyone. This is resolution recognizing April 2025 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Forsyth County, North Carolina. Whereas in federal fiscal year 2022-2023, there were approximately 3.1 million reports made to Child Protective Service agencies across the country. Whereas in state fiscal year 2022-2023, there were over 116,000 children with investigated reports of abuse and neglect in North Carolina. And whereas child abuse and neglect are serious problems affecting every segment of our community, and finding solutions requires input and action from everyone in our community. Whereas our children are our most valuable resource and will shape the future of the world and Forsyth County. And whereas child abuse and neglect can have long-term psychological, emotional, and physical effects that leave lasting impressions, lasting consequences for victims of abuse. And whereas effective child abuse prevention strategies succeed because of partnerships created between child welfare, education, healthcare, community, faith-based organizations, businesses, and law enforcement agencies. And whereas we acknowledge that we must work together as a community to increase awareness about child abuse and advocate for the social, emotional, and well-being needs of children and families to thrive in safe, stable, and nurturing environments. And whereas within Forsyth County, there are active partnerships between several community partners to proactively address child abuse and neglect, including Forsyth County Department of Social Services and Public Health, Bridges to Hope, the Parenting Path, the Guardian Ad Litem Program, Family Services, Atrium Wake Forest Hospital, Novant Health, Winston-Salem Forsyth County School System, Forsyth County Sheriff's Office, Winston-Salem Police Department, and the Forsyth County District Attorney's Office, all of which comprise the Community Child Protection Team and the Child Fatality Prevention Team in Forsyth County. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners hereby recognizes April 2025 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Forsyth County and encourages all citizens, community agencies, faith-based groups, and medical facilities to increase participation in the efforts of the Forsyth County Department of Social Services to prevent child maltreatment and strengthen the communities in which we live, adopted this 10th day of April 2025, and I so move.
Second that motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank all of you for what you do, and we do want to get a picture. So Commissioner Bessie's going to come down, and if you guys will turn around, Todd Luck will actually come and take your picture this way in this direction.
All your work is fun. It's got the resolution. Let me slide it back.
Well, when I have to button my coat. Thanks very much. Thank you for your good work.
Thank you all for coming, all organizations and individuals from Department of Social Services and the Health Department. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I was looking to make sure that the Children's Law Center was included in that group. I know they were represented here today, and
I actually made a note to Commissioner Wilson, same thing, be on that list.
certainly want to make sure they're recognized as well for the wonderful work they do in this community.
Thank you.
Children's Law Center.
Wasn't it on the resolution?
No.
Well, I move it be amended to reflect that.
Very good. Next item on the agenda is a resolution recognizing April 13th through 19th, 2025 as National Public Safety Telecommunications Week in Forsyth County. Ashley Conrad, Forsyth County Sheriff's Office Communications Manager, and Jamie Four, our Emergency Services Deputy Chief, are here to receive that resolution. Thank you all for being here, and others, folks, please come forward. And please join Commissioner Wilson as he reads the motion, and you can do it just like Commissioner Bessie if you want to, and then go down and present to them.
I'm sure I won't do it just like Commissioner Bessie, but in any event, whereas Forsyth County Telecommunications serve the citizens of Forsyth County, North Carolina by answering requests for law enforcement, fire, and emergency medical services. Whereas Forsyth County telecommunicators are a vital link for our Sheriff's Office deputies, firefighters, paramedics, and animal control officers by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information, and ensuring their safety while performing their respective duties within the community. Whereas Forsyth County telecommunicators have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients by using up-to-date technology to aid first responders in the execution of their duties. Whereas Forsyth County telecommunicators are professionals who work to improve the emergency response capabilities of communications through their knowledge and experience, and who work continuously to provide a high level of care for the citizens of Forsyth County. And whereas Forsyth County telecommunicators exhibit professionalism, efficiency, and compassion in the discharge of their duties, utilizing the We Care principles of Forsyth County as a model for these actions. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners hereby declares the week of April 13, 2025 through April 19, 2025 as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in honor of the men and women of Forsyth County, North Carolina, who play a critical role in the protection and preservation of life and property, accepted this the 10th day of April, 2025.
I'll second that motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all very much for the life-saving work that you do. And Commissioner Wilson, if you can go down there and we can take a picture again with, I see we have other people, Todd Luck and others, which is great. Thank you all for being here. We've now arrived at the communications to the board portion. Madam Clerk, do we have any calls or cards? I skipped one, approval of minutes. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes for the meeting of March 27th, 2025. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Motion approved by Commissioner Bessie. Is there a second? I'll be glad to second those. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now, public session portion. Madam Clerk, do we have any calls or cards for the public session to speak?
Mr. Chairman, we have 5 cards and 0 callers.
Okay, all righty.
So our first speaker is Linda Winikoff. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
We have 3 minutes. Just tell us your name and address. That'd be great.
Thank you. Linda Winikoff, 3949 Chilton Drive, 27106. Good afternoon, Chair Martin and Commissioners. I'm speaking today to urge you to vote no on Agenda Item 14, which would authorize the use of City County Utility Commission funds for infrastructure at the Union Cross Industrial Center through a loan and grant agreement with Front Street Capital. Admittedly, I am not a business person. However, I am a concerned citizen. I am concerned about how public funds are used for economic development. This resolution deeply concerns me for two main reasons. First, this funding is being proposed for a company, Front Street Capital, that just stood before the Winston-Salem City Council on Monday night and boasted of a $211 million return on investment from its projects in our community. That level of profit raises a fundamental question. Why are public utility funds that include an interest-free loan and a sizable grant, paid by ratepayers, being used to subsidize a company that's already making hundreds of millions of dollars in return in our community? Or asked another way, why does a profitable company need to be subsidized with interest-free loans and a grant, which I assume will not be repaid, using public funds? Prior to today, the public has had no opportunity to weigh in on the funding for this infrastructure resolution. At Monday night's meeting, the resolution was part of the City Council's consent agenda and not open to a public hearing nor discussion. The only item that was open to comment was a separate resolution, Front Street Capital's request for a $3.5 million economic development loan, which was approved, again, interest-free. That loan directly related to this very same project that is in the infrastructure resolution. But interestingly, this utility-funded $1 million loan and $735,000 grant were never mentioned at the City Council meeting except through its title as part of the consent agenda. That's not transparency, and it is not accountable governance. I realize these projects, such as these, are purported to increase additional tax base and generate jobs. However, I have not seen any public documentation showing how much revenue has been generated for our community from FSC projects, nor how it has been spent, nor how many and what kinds of jobs these projects have actually brought into our community. Council members emphasized the loans were repaid and that the company made a great return, but what is the community actually getting back in terms of real benefit for its members? These are public utility funds generated by ratepayers, and they should not be used to subsidize private developers with interest-free loans and grants, especially when there are no job guarantees and no clear understanding nor documentation of the real return for the people in our community, and also when I see the lack of development in areas like East Winston-Salem. Please do the right thing, vote no on item 14, and insist on transparency, accountability, and fairness in how public funds are used. Thank you.
The second speaker is Patty Gillenwater. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon, Chair Martin, and the commissioners. It's nice to see everybody here this afternoon. We are entering a very challenging time for our community as federal and state dollars are disappearing while we are facing a recession along with growth in population. We call on you to consider the needs of many in our community who have been left out of needed resources instead of financing private developers, as Linda just referenced. It's a really good example. I'm new to Winston-Salem. I've just been here a couple of years. It's very easy to drive around and see the areas of our community that once were thriving businesses and now are, to say eyesores would be an understatement. It seems to me those could be projects that would be a lot more meaningful for our community than supporting a private company that does not need us. This is a time to engage everyone in the community to bring ideas and talents to the table so that together we can get through the next few years and come out a better place to live and work for everyone who calls Forsyth County home. So I'm also asking you to again consider voting to move the 2 o'clock meetings to 6 o'clock, as you have been asked to do by many in our community on multiple occasions. While this request was voted down along partisan lines at last month's meeting, I'd like to point out this is not a partisan issue. The 3 commissioners who voted to move the meetings are registered Democrats. However, I would assume that Republicans in our community are also just as engaged and concerned about the decisions that are being made by this commission. So I hope that you will reconsider, and thank you for your time.
You.
Paul Jeffrey, please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon, Chairman Martin and Board of Governors, of the Commissioners, I should say. My name is Paul Jeffrey. I am the Chief Executive Officer of the Community Care Center for Forsyth County, located at 2135 New Walkertown Road in Winston-Salem. The Community Care Center is a nonprofit 501c3 volunteer-based multi-specialty medical clinic caring for the uninsured and underserved of Forsyth County. 2025 marks our 25th anniversary of service to our most vulnerable population. I come before you to request your support of our most recent grant request to help us maintain and expand our dental care program. From my humble research, approximately 6,000 to 7,000 residents remain uninsured after the North Carolina Medicaid expansion here in Forsyth County. The Community Care Center is considered the medical home for 2,000 uninsured residents. Lack of insurance significantly impacts access to dental care, as many individuals cannot afford out-of-pocket expenses for routine dental services. Lack of accessible dental services compromises oral health and leads to increased utilization of emergency departments for non-traumatic dental care. One of the county's priorities, if I'm not mistaken, has been to strengthen public health in Forsyth County. And in specific to dental care, that was supported by Dr. Frank Kurtz, and the chair of the North Carolina Dental Society Council on Oral Health and Prevention, who described the lack of treatment of options for low-income North Carolinians as an oral health crisis. Forsyth County Dental Services. The county does have a dental clinic. The clinic is at capacity, from my understanding, with 3,000 patients and a waiting list. A waiting list that is recurrent of 29 patients at all times. The private sector of the county does not accept Medicaid, or very few practices accept limited slots or have available limited slots of Medicaid for Medicaid patients. Our funding request for our dental clinic is a direct investment in improving the health of Forsyth County residents. It directly impacts the low-income, working, poor residents of Forsyth County, while improving overall access to care and dental care for others by not visiting emergency departments, and in collaboration with the Public Health Department Director Joshua Swift, we will accept uninsured patients' referrals from the Department of Health Dental Clinic. Our grant request is to support our existing program and help increase our current capacity to expand services to meet the significant demand for critical dental care in Forsyth County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt Sin, please come forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Matt Sin. My address is 631 Firetuck Road. Thank you, fellow citizens, for giving me some time to speak. First of all, I would like to recognize that in Yadkin County, the Board of County Commissioners and the school board hold joint meetings in the evenings several times a year. So the reason I'm speaking today is because of some troubling language in some recent Senate bills in the North Carolina Senate. Now, if you care about local government and you care about the rights of local government and citizens to determine zoning issues, then you'll listen to what I say. There's been several bills that want to turn zoning into a quasi-judicial system according to their own language. Well, what does this mean? This basically means that they want the local county commissioners and town councils to rubber stamp whatever the developers want, because the developers are only going to propose zoning issues when it's in their favor. What does quasi-judicial mean? It means basically that only experts are going to be allowed to testify. So one, they're taking one of the primary roles of local government away, and they also want to limit the voice of citizens by limiting it to only experts, which usually the developers are the ones that can afford, and limiting the number of people that can actually speak out to the zoning board. Now, maybe the most heinous part is they want to make local government personally liable for decisions in court that's ruled against them. First of all, I don't think anybody on this Board of Commissioners wants to be personally liable and they will be sued. So what can we do? These Project 2025 aligned Republicans in the NC Senate are not conservatives like you and I. They do not care about the interaction with the people that you all bravely do every meeting. So what can we do? They only care about two things, money and votes. So my suggestion is that all true conservatives like me temporarily change their voter affiliation to unaffiliated. This will get them to take notice and ask us what we want and why we are upset. And they'll come running like my dog when I put out his dinner. Thank you.
The last speaker card is Marcy West. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Marcy West, 331 Carolina Circle, Winston-Salem. Commissioners, thank you very much. I'm here to talk about the budget. I wanted to, first of all, commend County Manager Robinson and her entire team for the extensive work they've been doing on analyzing the budget, taking a look at that process, and really making some excellent decisions that are both responsible and necessary. So I want to urge the Board of Commissioners to please adopt the information that is related to, number one, general fund usage. You should not be using that to balance the budget. It's been going on for a while. It's got us into a hole. We really need to make sure that we have income coming in on a regular basis that's paying for those ongoing expenses. Number two, the capital investment plan and having funding for that is very important. Maintaining our county buildings and assets is an important part of what the commissioners should be doing. It's clear that we have fallen behind on that. It has not been addressed, and it really needs to be covered. So I would also like to make some suggestions. So I believe that the county commissioners should be looking at the information that is related to their expenses by department, which aligns with services, which lines up with your responsibility to oversee what we're providing the community. And then secondarily look at by function, where that's really more related to the operational component, which the county manager is responsible for. So I would like to urge that that gets something that actually gets looked at and is incorporated into the budget, both from the top line and then all the way down. The last suggestion that I've got is that we make sure that we are consistent on the budgeting materials we're providing the public. Every single level of the budget should have, number one, last year's expenses and revenues. Number two, the recommended difference and percentage. It should be at the top level, and for every department, you should be able to easily go through and look at those numbers, not try and pick them out. So I'm hoping that you will all demand that you get the information you need in a way that's easily consumable by both you and by the public. The final thing really doesn't relate to the budget, but I do believe that we do need to have more evening meetings. I want to set straight a notion that there seems to be that we brought different people from out of state in to talk to you, to come to these meetings. Every single person that came, of those almost 200 people, We're residents of Forsyth County that care about this. It is not a partisan issue. I have heard from many Republicans that they would like to have these meetings in the evening, and I hope that you will reconsider and put that on your agenda and vote on it, and we'll have those. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you very much. Thank all of you for coming today to speak. Let me see, get to the point. Madam County Manager, I think we're ready to review the agenda. And at the end, we do have some first briefing public hearing presentations of items that are coming up in the next 2 weeks. So that will be at the very end. All righty, we're ready now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon, Commissioners, staff, and guests. The agenda items before you have been briefed and hopefully questions answered. Agenda item number 9 is an amendment to the 2016 Forsyth Technical Community College Capital Projects Ordinance. This will decrease expenditures for their Learning Commons and Aviation Center project by a total of $2.5 million and increase expenditures by $2.5 million for Oak Grove Center and the main campus renovations.
It's good. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion approved by Commissioner McDaniel. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Bessie. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item number 10 is an amendment to the fiscal year 25 budget ordinance to increase the appropriation for Forsyth Tech Community College for salary increases in the amount of $387,457.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion approved by Commissioner McDaniel. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Wilson. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item number 11 is an amendment to the fiscal year 25 budget ordinance to appropriate residual balances from the vehicle subfund. This agenda item would appropriate a residual balance of $1,791,978.34 to various departments within the vehicle subfund to allow for additional capacity for vehicle purchases and repairs. Additionally, the FY25 adopted budget included $2,250,000 in the motor vehicle subfund line item and non-departmental, which would be more appropriately shown as vehicle purchases.
We have a motion. Motion approved by Commissioner Bessie. A second? Second by Commissioner Woodbury. In discussion, I've just one kind of comment, and it's more, it has a question too, but I do think that we had a good bit of discussion at the briefing on Monday about how this probably needs a little revisiting. And I guess my hope is kind of or my question is kind of what sort of time frame are we talking about in doing that?
So, I mean, we have been knee-deep in kind of the capital improvement plan. If I'm being honest, our vehicle replacement, I don't think we're going to get as deep in detail as we need to for this fiscal year. We have a draft, but Kimberly Bussey in our budget office has really been leading the efforts on kind of a vehicle replacement plan and really getting into inventory and what's the life and recycle. Ms. Bussey, I don't know if you want to just interject on kind of where you are with that project.
I think what you said is correct, and it's still just a work in progress for, as deep as we're getting into the plan and the replacement needs of the county. I think we're not quite ready today to give you a draft of that, but it's certainly a work in progress that we're in the middle of, and conversations I think with the sheriff's office need to still happen about needs there, and continuing conversations with general services.
I guess my suggestion would be for this year's budget, we sort of come up with a number that's conservative in the sense of how much, and then next year we need to spend some time on that.
Absolutely.
Some serious time. It's a lot more than just scheduling and the amount. It's more of looking at how many vehicles do we need, and also a replacement cycle for all types.
That is correct.
All types of vehicles that we're getting at, a lot of those things. Commissioner Bessie, comment?
Yeah, if there are some substantive questions about this that we need to address that we haven't yet, or haven't heard reported on in Monday's suggestion, I'd be happy to suggest instead that this be continued. But if there's no particular, substantive questions about,
so this
residual balance of these funds, I would like to note that
of the almost $1.8 million involved, almost $1 million of that is for emergency services vehicles. We're talking about ambulances there.
That is correct. For this item particularly, we are waiting for your approval today so that we can actually purchase the ambulances that you already gave us approval for a few weeks ago. And so what I can tell you is that the vehicles that we are purchasing are absolutely necessary. It's just that we need a deeper plan for you in the way that we're doing capital improvement so that you can see on paper what that looks like.
That was my impression, but I just wanted it confirmed so that folks who hadn't been tracking this particular item before would know that. And of the remaining funds, in addition to the emergency services, almost $500,000 is for the sheriff's department. So that's replacement for vehicles that were, getting to the end of or passing the end of their projected useful life, or were involved in an accident.
Yeah, again, absolutely. So what I would say is these purchases are absolutely necessary. We have just been very reactive, and what I want to bring back to you is just a more proactive plan.
Good. Any further discussion?
And if I may, we do have a fairly substantial emergency services, or I should say ambulance replacement plan that was established 2 years ago when we came to you for a PAYGO item. And so that portion of the fleet replacement program is pretty well fleshed out, and we can provide you that information, in the next couple of days. So we can certainly let you know where we are in the process of this deep dive for the fleet. But you're right. I think the ambulances are a great need for the county, and that one really has had some extensive time and work done on that piece of it.
All righty. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item number 12 is a resolution authorizing execution of a contract with Brentwood Services Administrators, Inc. for comprehensive risk management, third-party administrator services for workers' compensation, auto, general, and property liability claims. This increases the not-to-exceed amount of the contract to a total of $441,455 for fiscal years 25, 26, and 27.
We had this great bit of discussion last year. I'll bring it up. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move approval and get it on the table for discussion.
All right, motion to approve by Commissioner Bessie. Is there a second?
I'll second for the same reason.
Second by Commissioner Woodbury. In the discussion, I did spend some time, as promised. I read the full contract. I've had some conversation with our county manager about a couple of issues that concern me, but they kind of can't be fixed. It's like the past. But I did think, I will say that I think the actual contract is very clear with the services, and the only comment I suggested to her really had to do with there are opportunities for subcontractors to be selected by the vendor at various points. And in some cases, those subcontractors come from an approved list. In others sections, it leaves the impression if they're busy, they just go get one and we pay for it. And that may be an interpretation error on my part, but I think that's something that at least needs to be clear, which is if there are subcontractors involved by the third-party administrator, that needs to come from an approved list that we have vetted, and or we have a right of refusal or review at that time. And I think that is just an interpretation piece. But with that in mind, I'm prepared to support it. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item number 13 is a resolution authorizing execution of an agreement for the renewal of Laserfiche document management subscription services. This awards a contract to MCCI for the renewal of Laserfiche in an amount not to exceed $145,255 for a one-year term ending March 27th, 2026.
Do we have a motion?
Approval.
Motion approved by Commissioner Bessie. Happy to second that. Any discussion?
Just a question, I guess, for M.
For Gary. Question for Gary?
Yes.
Yeah, good.
The MCCI company, where is that company located out of? I try to sometimes, before I come here, kind of do some background research on these companies to determine if they're local or in the general area, out of state.
I'm not sure from a corporate standpoint where they are, but our account management is from the Greensboro area, if I'm not mistaken. But I can look the company up and give it to you.
Thank you.
All righty. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item number 14 is a resolution ratifying and authorizing the expenditure of city-county utility commission funds generated by out-of-county services for the design and construction of municipal infrastructure improvements at Union Cross Industrial Center through a loan and grants agreement between the City of Winston-Salem, City-County Utility Commission, and Front Street Capital LLC. This will award a $1 million loan agreement at 0% interest and a $735,000 grant agreement to Front Street Capital LLC, who will construct a 300,000 square foot speculative building in the Union Cross Industrial Center. This will fund the design and construction of municipal infrastructure. The loan must be paid in full once the facility is leased and sold or refinanced, but no longer than 5 years from the loan closing date.
Do we need another review from Kirby on that?
We
think so.
I think it'd be a good idea.
That'd be great. See, yeah, there he is.
And I also will say that Coleman team from Front Street Capital is here if you also have any questions.
Thank you, Madam Manager. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Board. I'm happy to profile the item in full again if you'd like, or answer any specific questions you may have.
Why don't you just give it, since it came up in our discussion section, our communication to the board, would you mind just, I think reviewing the whole thing for everyone would be a good thing?
So as the board's aware, Front Street Capital is an established developer in the area. They have numerous industrial properties around town that they've worked to develop. They've been especially active in the Union Cross Industrial Center since 2018. Some of the background there is, Front Street entered into a loan partnership with the city in 2018 for the development of industrial spec buildings. Since that time, they've drawn on that 3 times to deliver roughly 2 million square feet of industrial property, $215 million in taxable value. Those were the city's funds. The city's funds were used in each project to incentivize Front Street, though, to deliver horizontal infrastructure to those sites that create shovel-ready sites, and in each case, Front Street completed the project and paid the loan back early. So when you get to the present item, Front Street plans to immediately begin construction on their largest spec building to date, which is a $32 million, 300,000 square foot facility on land acquired from the city in 2020. As I understand it, the inventory of spec buildings in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County is 0 right now, so there's a need for that. This property in particular is the one that fronts Union Cross. It's located between Caterpillar and Glenn High School. It's zoned appropriately right now for that development, which is limited industrial. So to create a developable site for the spec building, Front Street needs to pave a new public road and install water and sewer along Axel Drive and in the new road. So the item before the board today is to consider a $1,735,000 expenditure. It's a $1 million loan, $735,000 grant that'll fund the new road, which is estimated to cost roughly $520,000, and then install that municipal infrastructure that's estimated to be $1.2 million. You heard sort of the terms of that loan. Really, to underwrite that development for Front Street, their costs since 2018 have gone up roughly 60%. That's just in the cost of money, that's in the cost of development, so there's a lot of cost there to develop industrial property. So the county's funds, which are really generated by out-of-county funds, city-county utility commission funds in this case, would be used for municipal infrastructure. That's the road and the water and sewer that would open up 72 acres in the Union Cross Industrial Center. So I'm happy to answer any questions the board has.
One question right there. If it wasn't Front Street Capital, we would need this anyways for any business coming in, correct? The water and sewer.
From an economic development perspective, industrial property in these bigger spec buildings are really important. And so, right, to be able to get to it, you got to have a road, you got to have water and sewer to serve it.
Okay.
Could you talk, there are 2 comments that were made, particularly in our communication to the board to hear. One was about $215 million that you recapped which is basically the value of the property that has been built essentially by Front Street over this period of time. That's not the profit margin.
That's right. It's not profit. It's the
in
taxable
fact,
value.
It is the taxable value has increased by that, which you can simply divide by 100 and multiply by our tax rate, and you see what the value is every year of that property to the county. So it is generating a lot of tax dollars to support actually keeping the tax rate lower for individual taxpayers. And that's a key issue.
That's right. If I can recall correctly, that's generated roughly $2 million in taxes to the city and county.
Yeah, so, and I'd like for you to talk a little bit more about the utilities fund issue. This is not paid by ratepayers, here in this county. It is paid for by users outside of Forsyth County that we actually treat sewer for.
That's right.
So we are doing a service for some of our neighbors, and it is that fund many years ago was created and set aside just for improving infrastructure for economic development. It had a singular purpose.
That's correct, sir. It's my understanding those funds are restricted. They're generated by out-of-county services. They are restricted for the use of infrastructure and economic development. Again, that fund has roughly $4 million in it right now. It's been accessed before for similar purposes and paid back.
Yeah, the good part, we have not in the past used it as a revolving loan fund. So it has been a grant. This actually provides an opportunity to replenish the base. It's not an interest charge, but to replenish actually the fund for future use and that may come. So I think it was a pretty creative way to approach support for something that we need in terms of, and the need part's pretty well established. We'd bring in, Winston-Salem Business Inc., and they could talk about the number of visitors that they have had from companies just this first quarter. Was a large number of visits, a large number of inquiries, and people are looking for things, they're not looking to build anything. They want to go use something and lease it immediately, some purchase, but that is hurting us in terms of establishing and broadening our tax base, particularly when there's a boom of work, no pun intended with boom, but a lot of work going on with Toyota and others that they need suppliers and other kinds of manufacturers, small manufacturing, and we need to be positioned to be able to take advantage of that. So I think this is our inventory, a cupboard is pretty much bare, and this is a nice sized project that would really help that.
Yes, sir. And beyond the value of the building, then when it's leased, you're going to upfit that building. There's going to be additional tax value from the equipment.
Equipment side.
Right.
Any other discussion?
And I'm sorry, you go ahead.
So thank you for that explanation. I think that on average, citizens hearing what you have just explained to us kind of understand what we are trying to do as it relates to economic development. It seems to be, now that I have a better understanding, a strategic plan that could benefit all of us here in Forsyth County. I think the issue was raised also by one of our citizens around where if you couldn't have gotten here at 2 o'clock on Monday, you didn't really come to understand what maybe this was about, including myself, because I couldn't be here at 2 o'clock, so I was trying to call in and get information to the best of my ability. So I appreciate the citizens coming to raise the issue, and because they were able to come to our 2 o'clock meeting, maybe now they can, even if they disagree, understand where the county at least is coming from as it relates to this item. But I think you did an awesome job explaining the benefits of us moving in this direction.
I see two other comments.
This 5-year term loan is either secured by the land or property or otherwise guaranteed. Is that correct?
I defer to the county attorney on that. I know that the city is drafting the agreement for that.
Well, then I'm sure that will be well handled.
I'll just say that my preference is to have the agreement in front of you so we could answer that question. Frankly, I have no idea because the city is drafting it, and from what I've heard, they've not drafted it yet. So the terms I know are the terms that are in the resolution.
So, go ahead, sorry. So until we get the resolution from the city, is it a good idea for us to vote ahead of what they submit to us as it relates to the loan?
So this is a little different. City county utilities is administered by city staff, and so they prepare the legal documents relating to utilities. So they will be preparing those documents. So that's why you don't have an agreement in front of you. I think it's up to you as to whether you want to vote on this or not. Obviously, an agreement can't be signed until an agreement's drafted, but as I understand it, these are the essential terms.
As articulated by Commissioner Wilson, that there will be a guarantee of the loan coming back, being paid back based on the property and or the sale of.
You can add that if you want. I don't know. I'm not part of these negotiations, so I don't know what the parties have agreed to. Believe.
What is the guarantee, I guess I'm asking?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the term there, and I'm not sure if it necessarily answers Commissioner Wilson's question, but that your repayment is triggered by two things. That's that the facility's leased and then either sold or refinanced, or after 5 years. The security there, I'm not quite sure. Mr. Tiemann might be able to answer that. He may have discussed that with the city. I'm not sure. Might be a work in progress at this point.
Chairman Martin, County Commissioners, thank you for letting us be here. It is essentially in the second position. We've done this loan 3 times with the city now. This will be our 4th time that we've done this. It'll be in second position to our normal bank loan. We have to go out and go get financing for this project. The total loan amount is approximately $19 million. So the second position would be collateralized by the remainder of that asset, which will be about $35 million. Once we put a tenant in there, it'll be closer to $40 million. So there's a deep amount of collateral of this physical asset that the county would be in second position on.
I do have a follow-up question for you since you're here. So the question I have on behalf of the citizens, including myself, do you have kind of like a projected economic impact as it relates to possible jobs? Or I think we've heard what the possibility of tax revenue would be, but have you all looked at that?
We've looked at all the jobs that we have created through all of these loan programs that we've received and done, in addition to other industrial development that we've done out there. The benefit of these spec buildings is they often create build-to-suit projects adjacent to them. That's happened 3 times for us. That's where that $215 million investment comes from. This equates thousands of jobs. We can get you a specific number. I would say in relation to this specific property, we are making provisions for this spec building over and above what we usually do to attract a manufacturer. There are specific things we do, like adding floor capacity, adding power capacity, specifically to attract a manufacturing operation rather than a distribution facility. What that does is it means greater taxable investment by the tenant and also higher job counts for that asset. So we are doing everything we can on the front end to invest, to bring a type of a user into that facility that creates the jobs we're all looking for.
Other questions of Mr. Team while he's here?
I think what you were telling us is that while it's a second position, it's well collateralized.
Given the size of the loan, it is very well collateralized by the physical asset, yes.
Thank you.
I'm happy to address any other questions or comments that you would like me to.
Any other questions?
If Winston-Salem Inc. was here, I would ask them to go over the demonstrated need for spec buildings as attractors for economic development, particularly manufacturing. In your experience, would you care to comment on that generic need and why this is a priority locally?
That's a great question. So you probably have updates from Greater Winston-Salem Inc. fairly regularly. There are 76 active projects in our area right now. Without spec buildings, you cannot attract these companies. Most of the time, these out-of-town, out-of-state, or even out-of-country companies, we build buildings for people that are domestically here in the United States, as well as international companies that come here and say, I need 250,000 square feet, I need it in 9 months. We can't build a facility that quickly. So again, this is the 4th facility that we built since 2018, and all of those facilities have leased up in about 6 to 8 months respectively. So there's a deep need to have product readily available so these companies who are very fast moving have a place to domicile in our city and our county. So, but for these spec buildings, we lose out on a lot of those 76 active projects that Greater Winston-Salem is currently working on.
And this is a particularly good location for this type of facility. It's near the interstate system. It has access immediately to water and sewer. It's, we don't have a lot of sites like this left in Forsyth County. So it's hard, it's hard to beat this location in this.
You're right. Forsyth County geographically obviously is smaller in land mass than a lot of our neighboring counties. So land is a problem. And today, Kirby mentioned as well, costs have escalated so significantly in the last 5 years. We've spent millions of dollars in the past on public infrastructure. This is road improvements, road widening, sewer and water. But because of the cost of these facilities, we can no longer invest in both the facility and the public infrastructure. The biggest need we need right now are utilities and things brought to these sites so that we can build these buildings, which is exactly what this money is going toward. But for this investment by the county, these facilities would not be happening.
Just some comments that when questions are finished.
Any other questions? You can make your comment.
All right, thanks. Yeah, I think it's entirely reasonable for citizens that are not familiar with this type of funding and this type of project to raise questions about it. And thank you for coming to do that. Gives us an opportunity to explain what's involved here and why it's essential as an ongoing economic development tool for the county as well as the city. If we were using sort of general public funds, it would fall under a different statutory authorization process that would have required a public hearing, at which time we would have gone into this kind of information in detail as a part of the initial presentation. The fact that this is an unusual funding source through the revenues generated from out-of-county customers of our public utilities, water and sewer, and do not involve general revenues that come to Forsyth County or the city of Winston-Salem, means that it didn't have that built into the public information process. So this has given us a good opportunity to explain exactly what's being done, where the money is coming from, and why it's beneficial to the general public in terms of the economic development value that you get from it.
As a company, we deeply respect, the questions that get raised here. We deeply respect transparency and our ability as a trusted partner. We've been building this type of real estate in Forsyth County for 40 years. We've generated a lot of tax base. We measure a lot of our projects by the impact it creates for the community, both in jobs, tax base, and recurring revenue that allows us to invest in other areas of the city and the county. So we appreciate the questions, and we're always here to answer and be as transparent as possible as we partner with both the citizens and the county and the city in these projects. Thank you all.
Thanks a lot for being here. All righty. Are we ready to vote now?
We need a motion, I think.
All right. Excuse me?
I think we need a motion.
Oh, that's right. We haven't got it. We're right. Do we have a motion, please? It was approved by Commissioner Bessie.
Second.
Commissioner Wilson.
With Commissioner Wilson. We have a second by Commissioner McDaniel. Good. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item number 15 is an ordinance revising Chapter 3 of the Forsyth County Code entitled Air Quality Control. This will approve revisions to the ordinances titled Air Quality Control and Air Quality Technical Code regarding rules applicable to asbestos hazard management, air quality permits, gasoline dispensing facilities, sulfur dioxide emissions from combustion sources, and control of emissions from incinerators.
That's good. Minor gave us a great presentation last week, and we had the 150-page document, and by and large, there's a whole lot of time. I'd like to thank them for doing that work. It's brought it up to date, which is great, and it's a kind of a one-stop shop for those that want to find that information. Do we have a motion to approve? Motion approved by Commissioner Bessie. I'd be happy to second that. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item number 16 is a resolution acknowledging receipt of the tax collector's report of the total amount of unpaid 2024 taxes that are liens on real property and ordering the tax collector to advertise such liens. The advertisement will occur during the period of May 12th through June 27th, 2025.
We had a very good presentation on that also on Monday. If there are any questions, if not, is there a motion? Motion approved by Commissioner Bessie. Second by Commissioner Wilson. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Items 17 and 18 are our report. 17 is the February Human Resources Report, and 18 is the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Housing Consortium Renewal 2026 through 2028.
It's good. To have a motion to accept reports.
Move to receive reports.
Motion approved by Commissioner McDaniel. I'm happy to second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And now we have a list of a number of, I guess, first briefing issues from Mr. Murphy.
And actually,
find my list.
Mr. Murphy, you are not first. Yeah. For change. You're number one, though. You're number one.
We have Mr. Boyer here and Robinson Bradshaw on Novant.
Yeah, our first item is tax exempt bonds for healthcare facilities for the benefit of Novant Health. Charles Boyer from Novant is here to brief this item.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Charles Boyer. I'm here as a representative of Novant and the National Finance Authority. Oh,
Sorry, I'm gonna.
thank you.
No, I just
hit enter.
There they are.
The National Finance Authority, I was here last year for a very similar request. The federal tax code requires money is going to be spent from a tax exempt bond financing. Hearing be held in the community where the facility is located and approved by the governing body, which is the county commissioners. This slideshow, I promise I won't take too much time, but I kind of created it as just a frequently asked questions to brief counties and cities. The National Finance Authority and Novant are requesting the County Board of Commissioners, 1, hold a public hearing, and 2, approve the issuance of tax-exempt bonds to benefit Novant and its affiliates. The bonds, for the purposes of Section 147F of the Internal Revenue Code, that was the federal tax code I referenced earlier, and the applicable law governing the National Finance Authority. The County Board of Commissioners' consideration of this item is required. It's due to federal tax law and the New Hampshire statute that governs the National Finance Authority. The biggest punchline and important thing for you all and the county is the bonds will not constitute a debt of the county, nor will the county have any obligation to repay the bonds. You're just the venue to host the public hearing and approve. I can go line by line. This one's a little simpler, and if you have questions, I'm more than happy to go into detail on it. The reason we're coming to the County Board of Commissioners is because the facilities of Novant are in the county. So in this particular deal, there's facilities over North Carolina and South Carolina. We are going to the various jurisdictions. There'll be a later slide on that. This is to only approve the use of the proceeds within the county's borders. The National Finance Authority, I think we covered this last year, but it's a multi-state issuer for both taxable and tax-exempt bonds. It has a very good reputation. It allows issuances over multiple states. So in this case, it's North Carolina and South Carolina. I've given to the county attorney and the clerk a full notice that has all the various details where all the projects will be located across both states. The main ones here are for routine capital expenditures and energy projects at the various facilities that are located within the county. I won't go line by line, but it's Clemens Medical Center, Forsyth Medical Center, Kernersville Medical Center, and Medical Park Hospital. And this is just a slide that I think is useful to kind of share again. We're going to these various jurisdictions all throughout North Carolina and South Carolina. And then this final one is really just, I've done most of it already, but I've shared the drafts with the county attorney. We will, after answering any questions tonight, go ahead and publish notice in the local paper. We pay for that and handle that. We share drafts with the clerk and the county attorney to make sure everything is good. And then we ask that you host the hearing at your next meeting. I'm happy to answer any questions you all might have.
Any questions? Thank you.
I don't have.
One question.
Yeah. I don't have questions, but I do have comments.
Sure.
So with the bonds and the proceeds, I see that you're using them for different projects and capital projects as well. What I wanted to say in terms of the bonds for your budgets, how do you, because I really don't agree how Novant in the past have treated the employees that work for Novant and how you regulate the salaries for your top-tier executive officers. So I know that doesn't have a lot to do with this today, but I felt compelled to say something because, again, you're before us. You don't pay, the Novant doesn't pay taxes to the county for the uses because you're a nonprofit, but you do profit in this county. You understand?
Yes, I'm outside counsel, so I'm
I-
happy to
I get
deliver
it.
that comment.
Share my sentiments, that's all.
No, I
So-
appreciate your thoughts, and we'll pass them along.
Absolutely, thank you. This is my first time ever getting an opportunity to share my sentiments, so thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
Did you say you were outside counsel?
So I'm from an attorney at Robinson, Bradshaw, and Henson.
Charlotte?
Yes, Charlotte, North Carolina.
All righty, thank you.
The next three items are for Mr. Murphy. It's planning items F 1655, 56, and 58.
Good afternoon again. The first request that I will brief is for case F-1655. It's a request of William Ernest Kramer III and Deborah Kramer for the Everett Road Storage Facility, which is a 5.55 acre piece of property located on the northwest side of Everett Road, north of Evans Road. So this is down in the southwestern portion of the county. And the request is to rezone from RS9 to GBS, General Business Special Use. Again, there is the subject property shown on the county-wide Legacy Growth Management Area Plan map. It is located within the Suburban Neighborhoods Growth Management Area. And it is on the west side of Everett, south of Clemensville. This is a subject property highlighted in yellow. It is on the northwest side of Everett, across from another GBS property that was rezoned for storage services retail several years ago. When we get to the aerial, you will see that although it was rezoned, it has never been constructed. They have put in some buffer yards and other things, but that was a storage services retail use utilizing storage containers, and it never materialized. But again, the zoning is there. This request is for stick-built storage buildings. Again, the use storage services retail, both indoor and outdoor. This is the subject property outlined on the area plan. This is located within the Southwest Suburban Area Plan update, and it recommends the subject property for attached multifamily residential 0 to 8 units per acre. So low density, but attached multifamily product. And again, that's because it's adjacent to industrial, surrounded, on the southwest side of the Everett Clemensville Activity Center. So the thought process was that this would be a transitional use and folks could walk to that activity center at Clemensville and Everett with hopefully some redevelopment there. This is looking northeast along Everett Road. The subject property is on the left. This is looking southwest along Everett Road. Subject property is on the right. This is looking west into the subject property from Everett. And this is looking east across Everett Road. That's that GBS portion that I mentioned back on the surrounding zoning map. Again, you see that some buffer yard type plantings have been installed, but nothing has been erected as part of that storage services retail use. This is the site plan. This has approximately between 46,000 and 47,000 square feet of buildings for storage services retail use, and approximately 6 buildings, I think 5 or 6. There's some smaller ones there along the road. My numbers may be off a little bit. But it does have a single driveway into the subject property off of Everett. And it does provide substantial buffer yards along the edges and substantial landscaping along Everett. Just looking at this from a summary standpoint, the request is not consistent with the low-density residential land use recommendation of the Southwest Suburban Area Plan update. The request could discourage new investment, reinvestment, and redevelopment of the nearby West Clemensville Road, Everett Road Activity Center. And the request may lead to additional strip commercial development along this portion of Everett Road, which could have a detrimental effect on roadway capacity of Everett. But the project is well designed, and this use is not a high traffic generating use. This was heard by the Planning Board at their February 2025 public hearing. There were no speakers in opposition, and following the public hearing, the Planning Board did vote 7-1 to recommend approval of this request to the commissioners. And with that, I'm glad to answer any questions.
Questions for Chris? I assume the petitioner is not the same petitioner that was across the street.
It is not. It is not. I'm sorry.
Is there land available in the activity center that would be suitable for this kind of use, available for it?
I guess you can go to the aerial and see if there's other, what's there nearby. Take a tighter aerial to get that.
Yeah, I mean, quite honestly, probably not in that activity center in and of itself, because without extensive redevelopment, you would probably have to tear something down and rebuild it. This is a smaller activity center. But again, an activity center nonetheless. It was one of those things that from a staff perspective, we felt like we should honor the activity center and not come outside of that with commercial development. But the planning board, in hearing the item, felt like that it was a reasonable request, especially in light of the GBS that had previously been approved by the commissioners across the street.
And what's the present zoning again of the property?
It is currently RS9.
So the plans recommend low-density multifamily housing. The current zoning is RS9. Assume if someone came in with a request for multifamily construction, that it would likely receive a positive recommendation from the planning staff.
They would. But again, calling balls and strikes. One of the things that is problematic in this area is rock. The industrial property directly to the west of this is, I can't remember if it's a Martin Marietta or if it's a Vulcan owned piece of property, but there is a substantial amount of rock in this area. So this property may prove difficult to sewer and develop for any sewer intense uses because of the amount of rock that's in the area.
So it's not currently served by water and sewer?
Correct.
Okay. That answers the other question, which is why isn't there interest given the housing shortage in someone? Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
The second zoning case is one that you have probably read about and heard about from some constituents around the Walkertown area. This is case F-1656. This is a petition of Francis Hammock Ader Reed and David Evan Ragland to rezone approximately 30 acres of property at the northern terminus of both Martin and Avalee Street from RS20 to RS12S. So going from approximately 2 units to the acre to about 3.5 units to the acre is what that essentially is what they're requesting. Currently, under the existing zoning, you can have 64 homes. Under the RS12 zoning, based on the acreage, you could have 107 homes. They're requesting 94 homes as part of this request. This is the subject property shown on the Legacy Growth Management Area Plan map. It is located within GMA 3, again, just to the north of Walkertown, not in the Walkertown limits, but in the county. And it is just north of the activity center, which is where the Old Hollow and Reedsville Road are, the commercial areas to the on the southeast side of Reedsville Road 158. This is the subject property highlighted in yellow. Again, you do see that this would connect onto both Martin and Avalee streets. The subject property is located within the county, but the connection in and of itself would connect to Walkertown streets, again, Martin and Avely. This is a subject property shown on the countywide aerial imagery. It is primarily wooded and has been that way for a long time. The subdivision, the existing homes for Avely and Martin, I believe, that subdivision was approved sometime in the 1960s, and there have been homes that have been built there in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and I think even as recently as the 90s, there were a couple homes that were built on some vacant lots in there. But of course, this is a big change because it's an extension of those existing public streets that have been there for a long time, and those folks probably didn't anticipate those streets getting extended.
Before you leave that slide.
Yes, sir.
If you go up on your yellow boundary, the right-hand side, go about halfway up the right-hand side, and you see what looks like a road, maybe a dirt road that goes across over to, I don't know if it actually, I assume it gets to 158 at some point. I wonder if is that a real road?
No, sir. I think that is a property line, and that's actually, that's a property line that's shown on there. So that's what that light white image is.
Oh, so
I don't think it's an existing road.
Same with the line that crosses the site to your, there.
Yeah, that one.
That's the property line?
That is not a property line. That is the road at the end of Avely that goes to the city-county utility lift station that makes this project even possible. There's a sewer lift station up there, so that is an existing gravel road, and you'll see from the images when I get to them in a second that is where you actually get to that lift station owned by city-county utilities.
And so it doesn't connect directly to a street. It doesn't connect directly to another outlet potentially.
Correct. It's essentially Martin and Avely are the ways in and out at this point. And again, while we're on this slide, that brings up some interesting questions. If you notice to the west, there is an RM8S property that was approved 15, 20 years ago. I can't remember if that was approved by the commissioner or whether that was actually approved by Walkertown once they took over their own zoning authority. The RM8S project to the north of Walkertown High School, this was approved by Walkertown for an intense mixed use of townhomes and single family. Even though there was an opportunity for these two developments to interconnect, they chose to approve it where it didn't interconnect. So, there's some interesting dynamics going out with those respective projects in that they could have interconnected, but they didn't. This is a request to build a subdivision that that basically connects to existing streets. It would have been good to be able to have all of this and this and this interconnected and eventually perhaps get back out to 158, but I'm not sure how viable and how likely that is moving forward. But I digress. I will move on to some of the images. This is the Walkertown Area Plan update. It does show the subject property for single-family residential, 0 to 8 units per acre. Of course, the request for RS-12 does fit that, as RS-12 is about 3.3 units to the acre, 3.5. This is looking north into the subject property from the terminus of Avely Street. This is that the white line that you're referring to on the aerial. This is how you currently get to the lift station, and this is where Avely will actually be extended if this project is approved. This will become a public street and will be improved, and then there will be lots off of this new public street. This is looking south from the subject property along Avely Street, so this is probably, if from this point, it's probably flipping around and taking a shot going south along Avely at the existing street and the existing homes. This is looking north into the subject property from the terminus of Martin Street, so moving a little bit to the east, closer to 158, but again, this is where Martin Street currently ends, and this would be extended further north into the subject property for the subdivision if approved. This is looking south from the subject property along Martin Street, again, kind of flipping around and just looking into the existing neighborhood. This is looking north onto Avallee Street from its intersection with Old Hollow Road. If you'll recall, Old Hollow Road is in the process of going through an NCDOT road widening project. There is the notification sign alerting folks coming in and out of the project to a rezoning at the end of their road. But you see where they have been doing the construction barrels, the grading, et cetera, for that Old Hollow Road widening project. This is the site plan. This is looking as the site plan would lay. Martin is the street on the right-hand side of the image, the longer street. Avallee is on the left-hand side of the image. And that's the extension of both of those streets moving towards the north. This is looking at it in a kind of blown up where you can see it a little bit better. Again, it's a 93, 94 lot subdivision at RS12S zoning.
So it looks like Avallee, it looks like the proposed new area doesn't use Avallee at all. In Avallee, you're right.
This is Avallee.
Oh, wait, up there at the top, sorry.
Yeah,
Got it.
this is
Got it.
Avallee. So the images where we were
I made
looking
it too
down,
narrow.
the gravel road was approximately where my mouse
I know
is
what you're talking
here.
about. But there are not many, yeah, you got not much on the west side of the
Correct.
extended Avallee.
There
just
are
those
some
few
creeks
lots.
over there, and that's open space area.
Yep, got it.
This is the U5824, which is the Old Hollow Road widening project. I did want to call your attention. It does have basically a fairly substantial cross-section for Old Hollow Road. It does maintain the access for both Avallee and Martin Street onto Old Hollow. The way the current situation from Martin Street is you can come down to Old Hollow Road and actually cross over Old Hollow Road to continue on South Martin Street. That will no longer be possible. That will be median divided. Avallee is still planned as a full intersection, so you will be able to enter and exit through Avallee and go either to the west or to the east back towards 158. As part of this project, NCDOT is requesting the developer for this project to do some additional turn lanes onto both Martin and Avallee Street as part of their driveway permit. In summary, the proposal is consistent with the recommendations of Legacy and the Walkertown Area Plan Update. The request provides a continuation of single-family development at appropriate densities. The proposed site design promotes livability through inclusion of a central open space and internal sidewalks with the internal network and design that the developer has proposed. And the street connections are to existing publicly maintained streets. This was heard by the Planning Board at their February 2025 public hearing. There was significant opposition. They were organized, though, and only had 2 speakers. There were a lot of folks there, but they appointed 2 speakers. The opposition primarily had concerns related to traffic along Avallee and Martin Streets, access back out to Old Hollow Road, access questions into the subject property via Avallee, and the increase in density and size of the resultant lots. Following the public hearing, the Planning Board did vote 6-2 to recommend approval of this request to the commissioners. With that, I'm glad to answer any questions. It's a lot of information.
Yeah, I got one question. There was a fair amount of delay from the February 13th, and I understand Walkertown was involved in part of that, because I got a lot of emails from families in that area, as well as talked to probably 8 or 10 of them. And one actually made a comment specifically about Walkertown was that was part of it. Do you know what the delay was in between there, and to some extent that Walkertown was involved in some discussions?
It was a couple different things. I'll go back to the site plan. Whenever you have a site plan, if you'll focus in this area right here, there was the plan that they had submitted and went through the interdepartmental process was a legal plan. They had a conditional statement on there that dealt with, there's an existing right-of-way in this area right here. This right here is an existing right-of-way. The developer, the property owner, was proposing to close this right-of-way, and whenever you close a 60-foot right-of-way, one property owner, the property owner on one side gets half or 30 feet, the property owner on the other side gets 30 feet. Well, at the public hearing before the planning board, the owner of this property said that he would come out and oppose closing that right-of-way, and I believe the town of Walkertown said that they would not be supportive of closing that right-of-way. So the engineer for the project went back and redesigned this area where he wouldn't even have to request that closure. He essentially had to shift some things 30 feet. That was part of the reason for the delay, is they were revising the plan. The other reason for the delay is when we completed our initial conditions of approval, we had in there that a driveway permit from NCDOT would be required. Well, they will have to get a driveway permit from NCDOT, but they also have to get a driveway permit from the town of Walkertown. So we had to include that because they are tying on to Walkertown streets. So that was the reason for the delay. They were working out that. They had to sign the written consent to conditions. They had to get the revised plan. So that's why it's been 2 months to get it here.
Wow.
The two subdivisions that you showed, one under construction and one existing to the north of the site, both have independent exits onto a major public street, yes?
Correct.
And this one, in contrast, is the one that does not. This would exit only to existing streets in an existing subdivision neighborhood. What is the approximate age of the existing neighborhood? When was that subdivided? When did they start building houses?
I don't have the specific date. I want to say, I did look at that, and it may be in my notes somewhere. I want to say it was the 60s.
Yeah, 60s, 70s. I just looked at the houses, I was guessing. And I think one of the people I talked to made a comment about that.
Yeah, so it was platted in the 1960s. Like I said, there have been homes that have been built as recently as the 90s, but the original subdivision was platted in the 60s.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned road widths and turning lanes. Is it still too early to inquire about traffic signals? Was there any discussion at all or issue about that?
There is not. I can't speak to the NCDOT road project itself, but I do not believe at this point that there is a signal planned for this full intersection. This project in and of itself would not warrant a signal in and of itself, just based, again, 93 lots. That's not going to raise the number of trips to a level where it itself would trigger it. So there wouldn't be any rational nexus to require this developer to do it. But I believe that if the traffic volumes warrant it, this is set up where it could be a signalized intersection, and it's far enough away from the 158 Old Hollow Road intersection that a light could function there. But again, there's not anything planned as part of this project.
And Martin and Avali streets, the width on them, is that 30 feet?
No. The actual road width, I want to say, is probably 21 or 22 feet, the asphalt, but it's within a 60-foot right-of-way. So they have adequate right-of-way, but it's old 1960 style, what we call ribbon pavement. Doesn't have curb and gutter, but adequate width for two vehicles to pass.
One more question. If you were to go to the west on 158 heading into Walkertown, by the way, there's not much distance between Martin and Avali. I mean, they're close. It's close. If you go further, how long does that because it's 2-lane heading to the west, I wonder how long that 2-lane lasts.
That I'm not sure of, because I'm not
Is there a map of what this, I'm sure there is, obviously there is, they're building it. So what DOT is actually doing and what they're proposing in that list?
Yeah, because again, we accessed this from the DOT website. I'm sure I could get a little bit further to the west and show that as well. But again, that I don't know off the top of my head what's going on, how far it goes 2 lanes in both directions. I'm not sure how far it goes to the west, but I can certainly find that information out.
Other questions of Chris at this point?
All right. And then finally, already heard from Front Street once today, but this is a request for a rezoning, Front Street Wahlberg LLC, to rezone a 30.35 acre piece of property located on the east side of Wahlberg Road between Union Cross Road and Business Park Drive. This is a special use rezoning request from AG and GIS to LIS, and this does have an accompanying CETA request, Special Intense Development Allocation, which is a watershed request. This is a subject property shown on the Legacy Growth Management Area Plan map. This is located within GMA 4. Keep in mind, GMA 4, once sewer is available, is deemed appropriate for GMA 3 type uses, and the area plan in and of itself did recognize the fact that if sewer were available, it recognized this area as appropriate for industrial, and I'll get to that in a second. This is the subject property highlighted in yellow. This is the same property that came before the commissioners back in the fall, and that request was a GIS request and I believe a GBS request, and the GBS request was for the fueling station, 16 or 18, 20 fueling pumps along with some truck fueling, and they decided to withdraw both of those requests and then run back through a singular request for the entire property to be brought in for industrial. This is the subject property shown on the countywide aerial imagery. This is at Union Cross Park. This is across from the Union Cross Business Park. Again, Ardall is just off the image to the south, big 680,000 square foot building that was constructed there. This is what I was alluding to earlier. This is in the southeast Forsyth County Area Plan update. It does recommend the subject property for commercial recreation, and that is reflective of the fact that it was, even though it was zoned GIS, it was for a driving range. So that was the specific use for that parcel. But if you notice that blue boundary, that is a sub-recommendation of the plan that basically says if sewer becomes available, the alternative recommendation for all of that area within blue is for industrial development. And as we know, the county did receive funds from the state for sewer for economic development, and that is where the Utilities Commission is actively working. You heard the utility director's update 2 weeks ago, where she was talking about the status of that lift station project. So with that, this is appropriate for industrial development. This is looking east from Business Park Drive. The subject property is across Wahlberg Road. This is where there will be a new road extended into the subject property. This is looking north along Wahlberg Road. The subject property is to the right. You see the county park on the opposite side of the street.
What park is that?
Union Cross, radar, at the radar base. This is looking south along Wahlberg Road. The subject property is to the left. And this is looking north into the intersection of Wahlberg Road at Hayes Drive. And Hayes Drive, this is the area just to the right here is where they previously had the request for the fueling, the convenience and fueling center. This is looking east along Hayes Drive. The subject property is to the right. They did have as part of their plan, they had a primary site plan, which is on the right, which is a 420,000 square foot building. They did propose an inset alternative of 2 buildings that equaled a total of 390,000 square feet. In discussing this with the county attorney, there was a thought, there is a thought that this is something that should not be done. They need to choose one site plan or the other. In talking to the representative of the petitioner, Luke Dickey with Stemmel and Associates, he will be getting me a revised site plan that shows the image on the right, the primary site plan, as being the site plan of approval that they are asking for. And that would be one large 420,000 square foot building. Again, ties into the earlier discussion you had about spec buildings and those kind of things.
Maybe I can ask, Gordon, were you involved in that very issue right there you just described?
Well, I just saw in the staff report, it referred to 2 site plans, and the way we do this is you have a site plan that's approved, and so I said they needed to pick one or the other, and so evidently they've chosen the primary one, which is fine. And if they decide in the future they don't want the primary plan, they want something else, they would come back to the board and say, we want to change our site plan. And you've certainly had other petitioners do that in the past. But having them choose one site plan preserves the board's authority, and also you know what you're getting.
Yeah, I agree with that. If we were, from a marketing standpoint, I could easily see, that's a big building, and very likely with the kind of folks we're looking, there might be a lot more interest in 2 sites. But we don't have any big sites, and that's kind of that's a narrower pool of people to go to the bigger site, I think. But the comment was made of it does encourage more manufacturing, I think, perhaps, which is good. And it's a short process to come back and go through it again.
Definitely. I'm not going to go over this verbiage, just the criteria for a CETA approval. Again, the special and dense development allocation, that's when you're going to exceed, this isn't a watershed, a water supply watershed, when you're going to exceed the amount of impervious surface you can do by right. You have the ability to ask for what's called a special intense development allocation. The commissioners have a set amount for each of the watersheds and subbasins set aside for this. Specifically for economic development type projects, things that are going to generate jobs and tax base, et cetera. I'm not going to go through each of those items, but just know that, again, based on the planned investment, the jobs, et cetera, that this certainly would qualify for a CETA request. In summary, the request is consistent with the recommendations of Legacy 2030 and the Southeast Forsyth County Area Plan Update. The request will have excellent transportation access to I-74 and not far away I-40 if you want to go 2 miles up the road. The project will provide approximately $35 million of investment and would create 250 estimated jobs within the community. This was heard by the Planning Board at their March public hearing. There were no speakers in opposition, and following the Planning Board public hearing, they did recommend approval to the commissioners. And with that, I'm glad to answer any questions.
Questions for Chris?
Are both 1656 and 1658 proposed to come back to us a week from today?
2 weeks from today.
2 weeks from today. We'll brief them a second time on the Monday, whatever that date is, 24th, 21st?
21.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get used to the new schedule too. I know when it's going to be. I just can't tell you the dates. So it'll be 2 weeks from today is when the hearing will be.
Yeah, the hearings will be 2 weeks from today, which is the 24th.
It's got dual access, ample space for parking, and this massive building, and no upgrades required with regard to traffic signals on the main thoroughfare, correct?
That's my understanding. Yeah, they do have a TIS they have worked with TIS, TIA, depending on terminology. With NCDOT, I know one of the issues that they were talking about was timing of the signal at Hayes, Union Cross, and Wahlberg, that intersection there. I think they have those issues worked out, but it's within their ability to handle.
Thank you.
We have 2 more presentations for you. It is 2 economic development matters by our Community Economic Development Director Kirby Robinson. One is Project Renaissance and one is Project Beaver.
Good afternoon again. These public hearings will be to consider the use of county economic development funds to aid and encourage a business to locate or expand in Forsyth County. You heard the manager say there's 2 projects there. First is Project Renaissance, and I'll say that we'll step through this more specifically at the final public hearing on April 21st to include the company's name. For Project Renaissance, the company is proposing a capital investment of $15 million in Forsyth County over 5 years. That capital investment was expected to generate 42 new jobs. Those jobs would have an average annual wage of $63,000. If the company meets their capital investment condition and their job creation conditions, the expected county incentive would not exceed $143,165 over that 5-year period. That is expected to generate roughly $508,000 of taxes over 10 years. So we would retain 72% of the new taxes. There is, and I'll say that each annual payment would obviously to the company from the county would not exceed 50% of the new county property taxes generated by the company's capital investments. That is a key provision in the contract. There is some competition for Project Renaissance, and that's out of Virginia and Texas, if I recall correctly. And there are some other incentives out there being considered. You have the city's normal incentive package as well as some state grants. So that's Project Renaissance. In terms of Project Beaver, again, same setup. We'll step through that more specifically on April 21st, including the company's name. Project Beaver is proposing $31 million capital investment over a 5-year period, expected to generate 28 new jobs with an average annual wage of $47,000. If they meet all of their conditions, the capital investment and the job creation, the county incentive would not exceed $291,183. Over 10 years, that's expected to generate roughly $1.3 million in new taxes. So we would retain 79% of that. There's obviously competition for that as well out of the Midwest and Ohio. And same sort of setup in terms of other incentives with the city's package and a potential job-ready grant from the state. Happy to answer any questions the board has, and we'll certainly bring this back, I guess, on the 21st and then for the meeting on the 24th.
These are both within Winston-Salem city limits, so they're...
That's right, sir. Yes, sir.
I presume they're being considered by the city.
I think at the 21st council meeting, yes, sir.
All righty. Questions for Kirby anymore?
Thank you.
That's all the items we have, Mr. Chair.
That's good. Will we stand adjourned?